first memory of you holding and realizing that your father is an extremely successful entrepreneur and he's not just your dad, he's somebody who whole world admires?
I think my first memory of something that was different with my dad was probably when I was like 4 years old. I think we were watching a family movie and a commercial came on and my dad was in the commercial. He was like driving a yacht or something and it was like, wait a sec, why is dad on TV?
Have you ever felt pressure that you must succeed and carry on that legacy he already created?
To be honest with you, I don't, but I will say I am a public speaker now and I travel internationally and I do events and I do feel the pressure when I'm speaking. Like if I'm associated with Brian and I'm going on a stage, there is a part of me that's like, oh gosh, they're gonna expect me to be him.
Everything you speak about, it's that powerful that I believe that there is probably never better time to world hear about that than now, because I believe that we are in communication crisis, in relationship crisis, and I believe that we need more and more female entrepreneurs. Have you ever had a feeling that you want to walk away from personal development world?
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is that I grew up with this awesome encouragement to fulfill my potential and everything was very positive. But I think the negative of being really positive and encouraging and accepting all the time is that...
It's very beautiful because you're speaking here honestly from the perspective of your own shoes. And have you ever felt misunderstood because of your background, because of your father? How do you see ambition in high achievers? Do you truly believe that a woman can be deeply feminine and highly authoritative as a leader? Guys, I need to say something. We're building something really special here. The level of guests, the conversations, the depth we are going in week by week, it's becoming better and better, more and more valuable. But there is one thing which doesn't make any sense. Almost 90% of you who keep watching the episodes, who keep coming back week by week, are not subscribed yet. Which means one thing, you're not fully part of that journey. I get it. It's one click. It feels small. But for us, and myself personally, means everything. It tells the algorithm that we matter, it helps us reach bigger guests and create better and better podcast episodes, which at the end of the day are equally for myself like for yourself. They bring the value. So if there was ever a moment to support us, I please you to do it right now. Check if you're subscribed, and if you're not, it's completely free. It doesn't mean to you that much like it means to us. Just click the subscribe button, and by that way, you will help us grow bigger and bigger. And what I can promise you is that me and my team will continue making improves and very soon move ourselves to the real studio where we will record even more powerful episodes with same and new guests. Check, are you subscribed? And subscribe right now. Thank you. Dr. Christina Tracy Stein. As I told you a couple of minutes ago, I haven't paid attention to your surname, on your middle surname, until the last moment when I realized the daughter of one of the biggest entrepreneurs world known, Brian Tracy. Thank you so much for being here. Before I even start the first question, you're very welcome. Before I even start the first question, I must tell you that I had chances speaking with people who are sons or daughters of such a big people who we all know, like Brian Proctor, son of a Bob Proctor, like yourself. And I always feel different in this episode. So today, I'll definitely feel different, very excited. So sorry for me if I say something a little bit not correct and wrong. But before we even start, I want to say that you hold a PhD study in human sexuality and you're licensed marriage and family therapist, what I have here. You're very deep into the relationship in communication experts. And I can't even say how important this is nowadays because it's everything being about networking, and I distinguish these two parts. I believe that relationship building, it's way different of collecting somebody's email, somebody's contacts, and just networking with people. But before we deep dive into all of that, I must go all the way back. And this is the moment when I change these questions. My first question to you is, what is the first memory of you holding and realizing that your father is extremely successful entrepreneur? And he's not just your dad, he's somebody who whole world admire.
My first memory, I think my first memory of something that was different with my dad was probably when I was like 4 years old. I think we were watching Yeah, we were watching a family movie. So I would have been 4. My brother Michael would have been 2. He was probably sleeping at the time. And we were sitting in our little family room watching TV, and a commercial came on, and my dad was in the commercial. He was like driving a yacht or something. And it was like, wait a sec, why is dad on TV? That's so like, I totally remembered seeing that. In terms of like maybe as an adult really appreciating the gravity of his work, when I was 19, I went on a trip with my dad and my brother. I'm the oldest of 4, so I have 2 brothers. So my younger brother, the younger brother, he and I went to Australia and New Zealand, and my dad did a seminar in a stadium, right? It's like a giant stadium that was packed with people. And so I think that was really the first time where I was like, oh my gosh, all of these people are here listening to him. And I, of course, went through the seminar and enjoyed it. But then we had to come back the next day and go through the same seminar. So it was like 2 different groups of people. And it was amazing. I mean, I was actually totally engaged both days with the same material. Like he had such an ability to command that space that's when I think I was like, wow, okay, he's kind of a big shot.
Whenever you come to the salesperson will tell you, I know how to help you. We are having perfect solution for you. But in fact, you have a great product, you have a great offer, you know that you can help so many people, but you're still inconsistent. Why it's like that? Because you misunderstand 2 basic principles. And let me tell you something, it's not economy, it's not war, it's not current president or political situation, none of that. Because simply you and money were always on the same planet Earth. You never left the planet, and most likely money never did it, right? The only 2 ways are the reason why it's like that. Number 1 thing, which can be the reason, is that you don't know the right way of presenting your offer. Number 2 can be that you don't know the proper way to whom to present it, which boils down to you don't know to whom to sell, or you don't know the right way to speak to the people to whom to sell. I have been scaling in the past 10 years multiple of my own companies and companies of my clients from $0 to $200,000 in sales, being in China, selling physical, perishable items like food and beverages, and without speaking Chinese, without writing Chinese, and without knowing how to sell to Chinese people. But I knew one core principle, and this is that psychology of people never change. So I knew to whom to sell, and I knew exact way how to present my offer to them. I was scaling up my digital businesses to hundreds of thousands of dollars, again understanding 2 core principles: to whom to sell, so who can benefit from my offer, and the way, when, and how to present them my offer. And there is no magic and there is no secret behind that. It's really easy to understand it. But in order to this video be very short, I put all of this together in the school community, which is completely for free. You can join it right now, clicking on the link below in the description box, and you can discover these 2 principles. It will take you a couple of days to figure it out yourself and to practice it, and then your sales will become consistent. Until then, see you in the school community. Bye for now. Awesome. And I know and I believe that everybody asks you, Christina, how is growing knowing that your father is Brian Tracy and everything? I don't want to ask you exactly that question, but I want to ask you, did you ever felt pressure that you must succeed and carry on that legacy he already created?
Pressure. To be honest with you, I wrote a book last year called The Accomplished Woman.
I know.
And
we'll speak about that.
yes, and I think in the book and what I've realized about myself is that growing up, my dad was always so complimentary of my, like, the sky's the limit, right? So he was very much like, you could be anything you want if you work for it, and you have complete unlimited potential. And I really believed that. And I just, anything I've ever wanted to do, I have felt that, okay, if I want this to happen, I can work for it, I can make it happen. So I've never felt an obstacle. But I will say, I am a public speaker now, and I travel internationally and I do events. And I do feel the pressure when I'm speaking. Like if I'm associated with Brian and I'm going on a stage, there is a part of me that's like, oh gosh, they're going to expect me to be him. And I think for a long time, as I was developing my speaking skills, I certainly was measuring myself against him until I came to the point and the realization where I was like, well, he and I are different, and I'm a woman and he's a man, so I'm going to have a different voice, and I can't possibly be him. And so I've been really embracing kind of who I am as a speaker, but there is always this very high bar for me.
It's very beautiful said, but I must tell you, from somebody who didn't know that fact, and probably it's my mistake, but until the very last moment, I must tell you that you are shoulder to shoulder with him because everything you speak about, it's that powerful that I believe that there is probably never better time to world hear about that than now, because I believe that we are in communication crisis, in relationship crisis, and I believe that
Yes,
we need
yes,
more and more female entrepreneurs. Yeah. And I
yes.
must tell you, my pure impression for this invitation was who Christina Stein is. I never connected this literally until today. So that's very beautiful. It's beautiful that you're feeling that, but I'm telling you, as somebody from the side, you're doing it awesome.
Well,
Uh,
thank you.
did you ever wanted to? You grow up in. I'm a big believer in environments, and let's start
Yeah.
from there. I believe that
Okay.
environments can shape you, and environments can shape entire trajectory of your life.
Absolutely.
If you're in the wrong environment, chances that everything gonna goes wrong are very high. But you was from the very moment of your birth in the perfect environment. We would say in the environment where you can be encouraged that you can do everything, that it's all up to you, that your mindset was never limited. Uh, as a child, as a teenager, have you ever had a feeling that you want to walk away from personal development world? That it's too much for you, that it's too purple, that it's not like this, you don't see it like that. And the question comes from I'm a father of a 9-year-old boy.
Uh-huh.
I'm teaching him daily all those stuffs that he can do everything, that he's capable
Hmm.
of everything, that if he can imagine in head, he can create it with hands. It doesn't matter how and no matter when, but he definitely have it in himself. And I'm often feeling that like, oh dad, again your stories, again your topics. I can't do that. I can't do this. So I must ask you, have you ever felt that?
Yeah, I mean, look, the truth is that I grew up with this awesome encouragement to fulfill my potential, and everything was very positive. But I think the negative of being really positive and encouraging and accepting all the time is that
Mhm.
there's not a lot of room for imperfection, right? There's not a lot
Yeah.
of room for failure. It's like, oh, you're fine, you're amazing, you're great, you're going to do whatever you want. And so when you don't do something right, I think there's more internal pressure. And I think that that's something that I experienced, like, just kind of holding myself to a very high standard. So if I'm capable of greatness, then I should achieve greatness. And if anything is not
Awesome.
great, then there is this feeling of like, oh God, I'm not as great as I'm supposed to be.
Hmm.
So that was something I think I struggled with. And the other thing that sort of separated my path away from my dad's is that I'm a very sensitive person. I'm a very empathic, emotional. I love deep, meaningful relationships. I have a lot of feelings. And so I grew up in a home where both my parents were very intellectual and analytical. And there was a lot of talking, intelligent conversation, but the feeling conversation was sort of limited. And I think that's also a generation thing that like people didn't talk about their feelings back then. Feelings, now with our kids, we're validating them and
Yeah.
encouraging them to have feelings but it wasn't something I grew up with the same way. And so I actually went to school to become a therapist and to study psychology and to really develop relationship connection and emotional intelligence and all of those things. And that led me away from personal, I guess it is personal development, but a different track.
Hmm.
And then getting into that world of psychology and relationships and marriage and feelings and self awareness in a totally different way. I built a practice and I worked with people. And then I kind of came back to working in the personal development, professional development world with a different lens.
Uh, I can't move forward but not ask you, is there any lesson that you pick up from childhood or teenage period of life from your father and that later you realized, okay, this is not completed one. I have something to add to that lesson.
I think that right now, the biggest debate I have with my dad, still, we have this conversation is, he's in sales, he's a businessman, he is about growth and being successful professionally. And so it's a lot about money. We talk a lot about money and, how much do things cost and are you providing value and that kind of thing. And I believe that it's not about money, right? We want money. We want to be successful. We want to have choices. But if we don't cultivate our relationships, if we don't have people we're connected to share our success with, then it's empty success. And so I believe you really have to invest in your connections and your meaningful relationships as a part of success, as almost the foundation to success, because otherwise you could have millions and millions of dollars, but it's very lonely to not be able to share that with someone.
Yeah, and I must tell you that I'm more on your side. I truly believe in that. I
Yeah.
believe in relationships more than in any other sort of, let's call it, assets in that world.
Yeah, totally.
And most of in my business where I'm creating sales events for people, online sales events, uh, most of the clients coming from honest relationships where we don't need anything from each other. We know each other, we know who we are, we know what we work, what we do, and it just happened. And without any intention to something like that happen, I feel better. I feel like I'm not
Yeah.
salesy, I'm not peachy, I'm just who I am and simply aligned with that.
Yeah.
Uh, from your perspective, and you mentioned a fraction of that, why do you think that high achievers often struggle in their relationships? In the relationships, in the way that is it because of they're ambitious, or is it because they're scared that by showing feelings in relationship, they're gonna look differently in the eyes of other people around them, or in the eyes of people with whom they're having those relationships? Is it about keeping the status?
Uh, so that's kind of I would say there's like many parts to that, right?
Hmm.
High achievers are typically very driven. And I appreciate this because I myself consider myself a high achiever. So I am very goal oriented, right? When you want something, when you're clear about it, there's something really exciting to be working on a project that lights you up. And I think that if you have high goals of success or you're managing people or you're building something, it requires a lot of assertive behavior and like action oriented investment. And so you're like working towards something. And I think that when we're producing, we're not receiving, we're not being as present. And so it's, you're in your role of being a boss or being in charge. That doesn't make you open to connecting with other people. I also
Hmm.
think that it is hard to show imperfection or vulnerability or to admit you don't know something or to admit you need help. And so if you're a leader and you're in charge, you're supposed to be in charge. And I think that people step into that role and they're trying to motivate people to come along or to help build something, but they can't always act as though they don't know. And I think that just that being human, that authentic part of leadership is how you actually connect more with the people around you and how you create more of a team experience, right? Like if you are in charge and you need your people, then everybody feels like they're working towards a goal together as opposed to trying to like achieve something for you.
As a team.
Yeah, as a team. And I think for women, it's a different sort of challenge because women step into like a masculine power when they're in business. Like when a woman wants to like be in charge or be taken seriously, she has to step into a very like masculine persona. And she certainly can't be vulnerable and she certainly has to like be in charge. And so it's very hard for women who step into that role, who have partners that are supporting them, and then come back into a personal realm with their partners and be receptive and feminine when they're so used to being like in charge and in that masculine energy.
Do you support this shifting of masculine to feminine energy in the women entrepreneurs? Or your belief is that a woman should keep her own female feminine energy and go lead with that energy she already has?
I think women should just embrace who they are and honor the fact that like we do it differently. Women are different than men. Female
I
energy
love
is
it.
different than masculine energy. And I think that Women tend to be a lot more collaborative. Women tend to be more intuitive. They work differently, but it doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It just means it's different. And I
Absolutely.
think even if we work as teams or we collaborate and everybody brings their gifts to the equation, it's just more effective, it's more pleasant, it's more productive. So no, I think that it's, and for anybody, if you're not being authentic to who you are, if you're trying to pose as
Mm.
something else, it's stressful. You burn out much faster. You don't feel as satisfied. It really wears on you to not be who you are.
It's draining. It's draining being non-authentic. And
Yeah, absolutely.
as a female entrepreneur, I'm very curious, how do you see that? Is it ambition something what is attractive at the very first, but destructive for the very long term? Or it's something what is fully attractive towards female entrepreneurs? How do you see
Y-
ambition in high achievers?
I think ambition is great. I think ambition
Hmm.
is it's a passion, right? Like if you have a fire inside of you, if there's something you want, if you can identify a goal, right? Like if there's something you want to have, be, or do, and you're like moving towards it, I think it's exciting. I think it keeps us engaged in life. And so I love ambition, whatever it is. I mean, I have 3 kids and I love when they're ambitious about something. And I think that it just has to be authentic, right? You have to be balanced. You have to be able to say, this is what I really want. And I
Hmm.
really want it tomorrow, but I'm not going to be able to get it tomorrow. I'm going to have to like pace myself and get it in 3 weeks or get it in a month. And so it's a balance.
You would say that extremely driven and deeply present at the same time can be balanced, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's
Yep.
beautiful. I love it because this
Yes.
will encourage so many female entrepreneurs who will listen to this podcast and as well our inner circle. Because most of the time I'm struggling saying to them that this absolutely can be on the same level. There is no
Yes.
no absolutely reason in the belief that you being extremely driven, you cannot be present for your family, for your husband, and enjoying being a woman at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. I mean, I
Uh,
would also say that men, ambitious men can also be driven and present with their families and find a balance between, that driving force inside of them, but also being able to be like present, like it's hard if you bring your work home to not be present with the people in your life. So
yeah,
everybody needs to be driven and present in order to feel really good.
absolutely. Working with so many people and coaching them personally, how do you see the topic of entrepreneurs who try to solve emotion instead of feeling them? We're very often feeling that or seeing that in the space that, especially men, they're trying to kind of like solve emotional problem and
Yeah.
to instead of feeling it and do something with that emotion, analyze it, it kind of trying to find a pattern in this and like kind of finding to find logic.
Yeah. Well, think about this. If you have a feeling, right? Like let's say something doesn't go right or you're behind schedule or whatever it is, and you start to feel anxious, right? Like typically it's a feeling of being out of control or it's a feeling of being anxious about things not going the way you expected or just it feels pressure and then you start to feel anxious. One of the things that helps us manage anxiety is to feel in control. And
Hmm.
so if you start to problem solve, right? If it's like, okay, if I can do these 3 things, then it's going to be okay. Or if a plan changes and you can anticipate worst case scenario, it gives you this false sense of being in control and it manages the anxiety. And so that's kind of a tendency is to be like, okay, what can I do with this anxiety? And then I think disappointment is another big feeling, right? When things don't go
Hmm.
right and or you fail at something and there's this expectation from others. And that's where I believe, self-talk, like positive self-talk, being patient with yourself, knowing that nobody's perfect, that like we fail our way to success and just being kind when the vulnerability or those feelings come up helps helps you be okay with it and that it's a part of who you are and it's a part of your process, that it's not a negative. There's no shame in having feelings, that we really have to connect with those and trust those in terms of it guides us to move in the right direction.
And do you see some big communication mistakes in powerful people which they can make at home? maybe when they're trying to reflect the business conversation into the home. How do you see this?
I see this a lot. Okay, well, if you're in charge at work, right,
Yeah.
in your professional space, you're in charge, you're executing tasks, you're in this like directive position. You can't come home and start directing your family members into doing things, right? You can't talk to your partner and be like, do this, do that. Why isn't this done? Because that's she or she's not your employee or he's not your employee. And so I think that one of the things that I always work with couples is I say, like, look, when you're at work, you're in professional mode. And when you're at home, you're in personal mode. And so, and this is true even if you're working from home. It's like when you stop one role and you move to a next, have some kind of a transition, the ritual
Mm,
that you can set up where it's like, for 15 minutes, I come home, I change my clothes, I take a shower, I go sit on the couch, whatever it is, some kind of transition that allows you to shift roles and go from being professional self to partner self so that you can show up as a partner and as a, in your romantic relationship or as a parent. But it's a softer role, right? It's a more present, comfortable, softer role.
beautiful. You mentioned a while ago you published recently book Accomplished Woman, and when I read this title, The Accomplished Woman, it's not the word accomplished which stuck with me, but what is beneath that word. We live in the world obsessed with achievement, titles, income,
Yes.
recognition.
Yes.
Like simply, if you don't have next to your name some sort of title, come on, not fancy. It's not something what people expect to be gracious. Very few
Yes.
people stop to ask what accomplishment actually feels like on the inside. So, question for you is, what accomplishment really feels for you personally? Inside when you stop for a second and say, okay, now I'm just Christine Stein.
I think, well, so to me, it's like a multidimensional piece, right? It's like a pie chart. So there's
Okay.
certain things that are really exciting for me. And when I accomplish or when I finish those tasks or when I nurture that area, that's when I feel accomplished. So like I have 3 kids. I've been married 20 years,
Congratulations.
I
This
thank
is
you.
awesome.
I really, really need my family to feel solid. So when I'm connected to my kids, I'm connected to my husband, then I sort of check the accomplishment box in that space where I'm like, okay, my relationships feel really good to me right now. And
Mhm.
then my health, like having energy and vitality and being able to focus, those things are important. And when I'm being productive in that way or I feel good in my body, it's like, check, okay, I feel accomplished. And then I love creating. I love creating educational materials. I love helping people get to that place of, oh, yeah, right? Like that is
Good.
just the greatest feeling for me. And so, however, I can do that when I produce something, like write a book and I get positive feedback, it's like, okay, I feel really accomplished over here. So it's not like one thing that makes me feel accomplished, which is the idea of the book, right? It's like each of us has to determine sort of our own combination of things that we can measure our feeling of accomplishment.
That's beautiful. What inspired you to write that book? Exactly that one.
So, so my dad wrote a program in the early 90s called the Peak Performance Woman. And I always had a thing about that where it felt devaluing of like all the different things women do, that like to be a peak performance woman, it was like this masculine corporate thing to achieve success. And then Sheryl Sandberg wrote the book Lean In, maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago. And I remember reading that. And at the time, I was a mother of 3 young children. And I thought, it, I want to be a mother and I want to be a wife. And I love this part of who I am. And I want to be successful. So why is everything saying that to be successful, you have to have a title, make a lot of money? Like it's only this area that we measure success because it devalues all the other things that women do, like whether they're keeping the home or they're involved in the community or the school or taking care of parents. Like there's so much value that women provide that they don't give themselves credit for because it doesn't have a title or a paycheck.
Yeah,
And I just felt like I wanted to validate the experience of women that it's not just this, that accomplishment is holistic and that we can achieve accomplishment in many ways and that each woman is accomplished in her own right if she can just identify it.
that's very beautiful
So,
what you said, because I grew up in a family where my mom never had a paycheck, but she was way more than any sort of title she can have. And I'm seeing this from today's. I'm 35,
yes.
and now when I look backwards and when I'm father myself, I can see being a parent how this look like, and really kudos to all women who can identify themselves even without a title, without some proper education, or without a regular paycheck. Uh,
Yeah.
I want to ask you, is there any belief about success? Do you think that quietly it's harming ambitious women right now?
Hmm. Well, I think that what's tricky right now in the world is that for a long time, we've had very traditional roles in relationships.
Yeah,
And those traditional roles are, especially like heterosexual relationships where men are the breadwinners, they're in charge, and the women take care of the home and the
hunters.
kids.
Yeah,
Yes, exactly. And so I think that there's this big paradigm shift of ambitious women who are realizing that they have more to give and that they want to build things and create things and they want to earn their own money because so much freedom comes from earning your own money if you're not in a relationship. And these women in the world who are focusing on that, right? The security, the freedom of having their own money before they get into a relationship, or even having reluctance of getting into a relationship because they don't want to lose their own independence by
hmm,
getting into a traditional relationship where suddenly now her husband tells her what to do or limits her freedom in exchange for being in relationship. So there's just this big shift all over the world of where we have to recalibrate what it looks like to be in relationships and that ambitious women don't have to sacrifice their feminine selves, their ability to have a male partner that like takes care of her at home so that she can take care of things at work as opposed to having to be in charge all the time or guarded and not as receptive.
that's beautiful what you're saying right now. And I've witnessed myself in my programs working with some females who were at the edge of choosing between career and their
Yeah.
ambition and what they're driven
Yeah.
for. Uh, what advice would you give to women in that position, in these shoes right now, who are feeling that she must choose between or love or career?
Well, you don't have to choose, I would say. I think that
Hmm.
that's the fear is that you have to choose. The fear is that in order to be successful and to pursue your career, you have to be in control and in charge and be this powerful independent woman before you can get into a relationship. And the truth is that a healthy relationship is a partnership. And so
Mm, that's beautiful.
finding a partner who supports you in both work and home is the goal, right? We want somebody that we can be authentic with, that we can be strong and weak, that we can be powerful in our profession, but also maybe vulnerable at home. Like the goal is that for both people, we're really like men also need to be honored and men also need to have, there's vulnerability in men. They crave affection, like it's a balance, like a give and take. And once people can pursue relationships with this give and take idea, then it doesn't become a you do for me, I do for you. It's a
Mm,
we do for each other. And because we do for each other, we're stronger and happier and more connected.
yeah, to avoid the trade. I love it.
Yeah, this should not be a trade. Yeah.
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 Uh, looking today, the modern female leadership.
Yes.
However this looks at the moment, maybe not still perfect, but we're definitely can see more and more women who are leaders by themselves, and they really stood up and they really
Yes.
take a leap. Uh, what is different, not better, not worse, but fundamentally different than the male leader. How do you see this from the eyes of somebody who is really expert in this field?
I mean, and it's a general answer, right? Because there's an exception to
Hmm.
the rule, but I feel like typically men are more competitive, right? Like men are sort of competing for like the head role or the head title, and women are more collaborative. I think that what I
Hmm.
see when I'm talking to male entrepreneurs is there is like they're very goal oriented, and it's like one of us is going to win is sort of this like narrative that they think in their mind. Whereas what I come across with women is that there's a drive to be successful, but also a desire to bring others along or to collaborate with each other or to build community and do it together just in a different way.
Hmm. It's beautiful because you're bringing here a lot of encouragement for all the women in the space, and I love it. I love what you hear because that's something what we need, and we're witnessing that not so many female are that successful versus male because every single event where you see somehow people even start to have a frame they expect to see male figure. If we say CEO, they expect to see male figure. If we say like
Hmm.
some kind of like high achievers, and I'm trying to take off these glasses and to expect to see a person, not certainly male or female, but a leader who is driven and who knows to lead whatever is company, people towards success. But my question for you is, do women feel some pressure that they have to lead like men in order to be taken seriously?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, I'll admit, like, I grew up in a very traditional family. My father is 82. So he is very traditional in the way that he has seen the world and thinks of men and women. And my brother and I'm around a scenario where I've had to, navigate this. I want to say it's a little bit of a bias where as a woman, in order to be heard, you have to speak louder. You can't just
Mm,
walk into a meeting and share your ideas because if there's a lot of men in the room, they typically don't listen to you unless you assert yourself or you claim the space. And then hopefully they listen. But there are, and this again, like there are some amazing men out there who support women and work collaboratively, but there are contexts where you put a woman in a meeting full of men and the men don't listen to the woman because what does she have to offer, right? Like these guys have got the knowledge and the experience and they want to, they're going to move forward and her contribution is sort of a token. And I think that that forces women to feel like in order to be heard, they've got to speak loud and be more masculine and not authentic.
so, do you truly believe that a woman can be deeply feminine and highly authoritative as a leader?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think that being authoritative as a woman is being clear about what you want, right? So having a
Mhm.
plan and being clear with your expectations, communicating that effectively to the people you're working with, and having good boundaries. Right? So like women tend to be more flexible with their boundaries, or they're because they're intuitive or more emotional, they tend to want to make sure everybody's okay and
Yeah,
that like
caring.
they take, yeah, they're very caring. And so there's a dance between how can you be caring for the people that you're working with, but also be containing. Like if you think about the role of mother, a mother has to manage her children and she has to love them and support them, but she also has to have a rule and she has to hold them accountable for the rules or have boundaries. They can't have a whole box of cookies or they can't sleep outside. Like there are things where we say no. But it doesn't have to be mean and direct and masculine and it can be a softer thing, but there has to be structure. And women can maintain that structure with authority without having to be assertive and demanding and masculine.
I really love how confident you speak about that. And this truly sends an energy and the message on the right way. But I must ask you, growing up next to Brian, who is
Yep.
extremely confident person. whatever we see, whenever we see him on the stage, teaching, talking, giving advice, extreme confident. Is it
Yes.
confidence for you something what is learned by the time or something what's conditioned? How do you feel it?
Well, there's two kinds of confidence, I think, for me. One is,
Okay.
yes, I got incredible encouragement. So mentally, I believed in myself. I believed things were possible. That was the script in my mind. Um, but I think that having confidence from within, like from my heart and soul, I had to earn that. I had to take action, right? Like, so one of the things I've found, and for me and for most people, is that the more competent you feel in whatever it is you're doing, the more confidence you feel. So if I
Mm,
want to write something, I'm not going to feel confident about my writing until I write. I'm not going to feel
yeah.
confident about my speaking until I speak. And so it's that doing something and succeeding at it, and then having this evidence that you're capable of something that you then take in and feel confidence. And I think that goes with relationships. It goes with communication, right? It's like if you can express yourself clearly to someone else and they get what you're saying and they can validate you and they can connect with you, then you gain confidence in the relationship. You gain confidence in your ability to express yourself. But it really
Mm,
comes from doing. So I would say, don't think that that's something you can just be given in your environment, or my
it's
dad was
earned.
great, but I think you have to develop it yourself. You cultivate it.
It's very beautiful because you're speaking here honestly from the perspective of your own shoes. And have you ever felt misunderstood because of your background, because of your father?
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, I think that there's an expectation that whether, because of it, I have, the ability, or I have the confidence, or I have I've just been, people assume that it's a privilege to have this
Hmm.
growing up experience, right? It's like, oh, well, because you had this, you're just naturally going to be ahead of everyone else, right? Like you got the golden ticket of success because you grew up in this environment. And I would say that's very much not true. That I think I was exposed to tools and conversations and ideas that I wouldn't have been exposed to. But then it's also about what you do with that, right?
Yeah,
Because you can be given privileges and you can be given resources, and if you don't take those things and do something with them, it doesn't really matter.
absolutely. Because one of the people with whom I'm speaking on this podcast, John Williams, he said a very beautiful sentence that everybody has internet, but it's like having a brand new Ferrari. Just some people never drive it. Some people drive it just in the first gear, and some people go 300 miles per hour. And that's really true what you're saying,
Yes.
because yes,
Yes.
you was exposed to all of this, but if you decide to never do anything with that, yeah.
Yeah.
So absolutely, absolutely agree with that. I have a couple of more questions in order to leave a message to everybody who listen and watch to this podcast, especially to the females in the entrepreneur shoes who are walking right now
Yes.
and on different paths of their journey. Uh, I want to ask you, when you begin your career, speaking,
Yes.
writing the books, how many times you felt yourself that this is maybe not you, that you maybe not enough good to deliver the speech or to write the book? Have you ever challenged yourself in your self-thoughts like, am I enough to say? Do I have enough credibility to say on that topic or to speak on that topic? Or how you felt about
Absolutely.
this? Yeah?
Every time. I
And
think
how you deal with this?
every new venture, I mean, look, every talk that I've given, if I hadn't given it before, it's a new talk. So I don't know if it's going to go well.
Yeah.
I think that that's part of having belief in yourself, right? Like I have to trust that when I do something new that I've never done before, I I try to figure out what I can do to feel more confident about it. But also, it's a growing experience. Like the first time you do something, it's not perfect. There's no way it's going to be perfect. So, but you have to do it and then you evaluate it. And then the next time you can do it better. but you can't evaluate and do things better if you've never done them. And I think that for sure with anything, I mean, I have a clinical practice, and even when I started out as a therapist in the beginning, it was like, I don't know if I'm good enough. I don't know if I can help these people. I don't know if I have the right knowledge. And then over time, it's like, oh, yes, I like now I have a groove and now I think I know what I'm doing. And I can accept that like my way of doing it is helpful for the people that keep coming back to me. And same with speaking or writing or anything. Anything, it's a growing experience every time.
And can you tell me, do you then believe that believing in yourself is internal quality, which creates real impact in the world and in the relationships, or is something else
Yes.
behind that? Yeah.
I think believing in yourself is huge. And I think that anybody can believe in themselves more by challenging themselves to do something they're afraid of or something that's new and different. Even a tiny thing. I like to talk about like, we're all happy in our comfort zone because it
Mhm.
feels safe and cushy and, like we know what to expect. So, and anytime we get to the edge of the comfort zone, suddenly we're like anxious and our body is like, no, 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 danger. Just don't go out of the comfort zone. And I think that every time we take a baby step out of our comfort zone in whatever realm it is, it's this empowering experience because suddenly if you just push yourself to take a baby step, then suddenly you do it and you see that you're okay and you see that the result is good and suddenly it's like, oh, okay, I can take another step and I can take another step and every step sort of fortifies the belief in the self and that your ability to take on new things and to achieve in new ways.
Beautiful, Christine. Thank you so much. Want to ask you for the very last, because I'm sure that somebody who is listening to us or watching to us right now, female or male, they're definitely building something right now. Maybe this is a new
Yeah.
course, cohort, maybe some, whatever this
Yes.
is in their business. What would
Yes.
you tell to them? What would you give to them as an advice to protect at all costs?
While building their business and being an entrepreneur, I would say protect at all costs. I mean, look, again, I'm going to say your relationships are the number one things that you first make those sure those relationships are solid because we need those people, right? Like when we're feeling good in a relationship, when we have good connections, and this can be romantic relationships or friendships or kids, like just the important people in your life, when there is a strong connection and you feel that community around you, it like gives you wings to fly. And
Mm,
it's this way of just launching you into what you want to do. But when you don't feel that sense of community or you don't feel that connection, you're just never standing on solid ground. It always feels like if you fall, no one's going to catch you. If something doesn't work, you don't have somebody to give you a hug or tell you it's okay. Like we're human and we crave it. We need that. And so I would say don't compromise your relationships. Make sure you're nurturing those connections as you're building your business. Like a little bit over here and a little bit over here, but don't stop cultivating the relationships because you're so focused over here.
love it. Christine, is there anything I haven't asked you today in this interview, but you would like to say to the world?
Let's see. Well, um, I will say this. I am passionate about what I talk about and what I do, and I'm also very aware of the impact that my father has had on the world and in personal and professional development. And as he is aging, I'm really aware of wanting to carry on his legacy and to make sure
That's
that
beautiful.
his message is still alive for people. And I know how he's impacted people all over the planet. And as part of that process for me in doing it, the more I am able to have an impact on people, the more people are aware of me, the more helpful it is for me to kind of help carry on this legacy. So I would love feedback. I'm on Instagram and I'm writing this my book, The Accomplished Woman. I'd love engagement and feedback on how I can help support people in an even greater way than I am. what value is useful and I want to give it.
That's very beautiful. That's very beautiful. And I will do everything in my power to spread that message further. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for joining me today. And thank you so much for all your wisdom and everything you shared here.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Nick. It was great. And thank you to everybody who's listening. And I hope that we're in touch, whether it's on Instagram or, whether I've impacted you in some other way.
Yeah, I'll put all the links in the description areas so everybody can just click down and you can just subscribe, follow. It's free, guys, and you will definitely learn a lot because trust me, I spent more than 2 hours on her Instagram and I learned a lot. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much,
Thank
Christine.
you.
Really appreciate you.
Yes, of course. Thank you, Nick.